Good morning. This week we're continuing our study in the book of John, and we're looking at engaging God at work. So I looked up the definition of engage, and it says to take part in, to enter into, and to come together and interlock. So I also looked up what the opposite of engage was, and that's to avoid. And to avoid is to keep away from, to steer clear of, to circumvent or turn away. So I started thinking, do I consistently engage God at work? Do I take part in? Do I enter into? Do I come together and interlock with God at work? Or do I avoid God at work? Do I keep away from God? Do I steer clear of that? Do I circumvent? And the honest answer was that I too often avoid or steer clear of God at work. Now, I know everybody's workplace is different, and for me, mine is a little bit unique. I work for a remodeling company, and I do design and sales. So I have appointments. My typical day, I will have 2 to 3 appointments at people's homes. So I go into their homes, help them design whatever project they're wanting to do, show them samples, and get the deal. So I'm on their turf, and I go into people's houses that come from all different kinds of backgrounds. And so I started thinking, do I really engage God at work consistently? And what I found is that when I go to someone's house and I walk up to the door and there's a plaque on the door that says, "As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord," Joshua 24:15. Gosh, that's easy for me to engage with God in a home of someone who's like-minded, who's a believer. Or when I walk into the house and there's scripture on the wall and Bible's out, that's easy for me to engage God in those situations. But what about the houses where there's no sign of God, obvious sign of God? I don't know what they believe. Or the house that I walk into and there's Hindu gods set up. Now what? How do I engage with God at work in those situations? So let's look at scripture, and let's look at what Jesus did in situations where people were definitely different than him. So we are in the book of John, and it's a story that everybody is pretty familiar with. In John chapter 4, it's the story of Jesus and the woman of Samaria, or the woman at the well. So in John 4, verse 1 through 4, it says, "Now when Jesus learned that the Pharisees had heard that Jesus was making and baptizing more disciples than John, he left Judea and departed again for Galilee." And this is the part that I wanted to really look at today. In verse 4, it said, "And he had to pass through Samaria." So I was looking at a commentary on that about he had to pass through, or he had to go through Samaria. And it says, although the road through Samaria was the shortest route from Jerusalem to Galilee, Jews often avoided it. They did so because there was a deep distrust and dislike between many of the Jewish people and the Samaritans. And again, it says, and Jesus needed to go through Samaria. Says the need wasn't because of travel arrangements or practical necessities, but there were people there who needed Jesus. So I got to thinking about how often when I'm in someone's home or just around people who aren't like me, who I know have a different faith than I do, how do I act? And all too often, I just avoid it altogether because I don't want to offend them or whatever. But we've got to remember, and I've got to remember, everyone needs Jesus. And if we're going to be effective at reaching people for Jesus, especially people who are different than us, we have to quit just avoiding them. That's the easy thing to do. That's what the Jews in Jesus' day did, because they didn't like them, didn't want to have anything to do with them. They went way out of their way just to avoid them. So I do want to reach people for Jesus, and I know that's your heart too. So if we're going to reach people that are different than us, we just need to take Jesus' example and do what he did with the woman of Samaria. We have to be willing to engage people that are different from us, when the easy thing would be just to avoid them or steer clear of them. We have to look for opportunities to share Jesus. If we're intentional in our workplace to look for people who are different than us, if we get prayed up beforehand and are bold enough to pray, Lord, put people in my path today that are different from me, that need Jesus, because everybody needs Jesus, God will be faithful to give us those opportunities. We just have to be willing to look for them, to go to them, not avoid them, not go around them. And we will see many, many, many people come to the Lord. And so I just pray today that God will put people in our paths at work, and that we will be bold enough to engage them, to look for opportunities to share Jesus with them, because we're living in a world that's full of people just like the Samaritan woman that need Jesus. God bless you, and have a great day.